Hello and welcome to another special narrated edition of a SpeedArt video, with this time being on the new banner art for the channel. This is replacing the old one I've had for nearly 8 years. It was made by my good friend A Bit of Joy in 2016 during his SFM arc, and to this day I think he did a cracking job on it. However, it is really old at this point, and I feel like I want to change to make it more reflective of my art style moving forward. And on that note, let's get on to the time-lapse. So first we're firing up Blender and navigating to the bedroom map. That's the same one I've used for the Chill Peep Zone anniversary artwork, as well as the outside Blender video. The first thing that I did was scaling up the Excelsior and Enterprise models I have because I didn't feel the small proportions fitted very well. I then fired up the concept art I made in 2016. That's also how long I've been wanting to do this dealio, and I've moved on to the monitor. Now for this, I'm not actually using my actual monitor because of the exact background screenshot thing I wanted to use, and instead I'm making an ultra wide panel like I used during, I believe, 2015 to 2016. So it'll be based on an LG ultra wide 34 inch. I cannot remember the monitor at this point, but it was the monitor I used before moving to the Dell monitor from 2017 to 2020, I believe, when it finally died. And for this, I basically used a mirror modifier to make sure it was identical on both sides, so the curve wasn't as inconsistent from one side to the other. From there, I just kind of extruded it out, just so we have some depth, and then extruding the front in to give so we have the inner panel sort of thing where the actual texture for the screenshot will be. You can see right now that I'm actually just making sure it's all lined up, the individual vertices, so it doesn't just kind of slightly forward. Instead it's a lot more flush instead if I had just left it as it was. From now we're just doing the little knob for the controls that you have in the LG. Now I didn't actually look up for references, this was entirely by memory. I just know there was a kind of control knob on it, and I kind of just extruded it out and kind of have it upwards. So I started from the bottom and then worked my up to the base, and then from there I kind of just smoothed everything out. Since I didn't unlock most of the meshes, I just kind of used the transform parameters in the mesh itself to basically move things into place. I think the monitor itself is turned out very well, but there's no time to rest because I've immediately gone to the little poster frames I have on my wall. Now I haven't done this in the past in either the Chill Peep Zone or the outside Blender video, because no one actually saw it. It was never in frame, so I just never did it. So I just decided to do it right now. And in fact, all of the modifications I'm doing is technically on a separate map file. Well, going to map, it's not really a map, it's a model. But either way, I did it in a separate specialized version, so I still have the old version of the Ayama monitor in it because this map is a very much a one-use purpose thing. Once I've done this artwork, I won't need it again, so I just kind of kept it like that. Right now, I'm actually looking for the screenshot for the ultra wide monitor, which I will use later. But I believe right now I'm just organizing and renaming the mesh accordingly. So before we get on to the texturing, which, speaking of which, we get into the texturing now for the ultra wide, and I'm just assigning all the different faces to each texture group. So one for the knob, one for the screen, one for the plastic, and now we're just UVing the screen. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep up myself, and then just kind of put in the existing monitor texture just so we knew it was the right way. Then I imported the screenshot I made in 2017, which was the last screenshot I made of the desktop before I moved on to the Dell monitor. So I did this screenshot explicitly for this artwork. Along that, I just basically modified the multi-scatter, the roughness, so basically it looks like a matte finish, like a laminated screen sort of finish. And then I believe I just kind of duplicated the texture and then just made it as the plastic, so it's just kind of like a uniform laminate effect, which I think turned out very well actually. I think the glosses. It's kind of getting one of those things that I knew what I wanted in frame, but I didn't know if this was going to be in frame. But in either case, I just kind of did the individual textures. Most of it was plastic. The base I remember being metal, so I just kind of did that in metal. And then we just kind of started working on the knob. I actually created a separate little cylinder base, which is going to be the light, because I remember there was like a light inside it, and then I just kind of worked on my transmission code, so it just kind of grows through like that, and it gives up a very desirable effect. I had to mess around with the weight to have to kind of look, but it gave that transparent, translucent plastic, which was what I was after. Now we're on to the point where I'm actually looking for posters to put into my little poster wall. I didn't actually want to use artwork. You can see I have an entire folder full of posters I kind of want to print, but I didn't really want to use them in the artwork because they're not my art, and I didn't really want to go through the hassle of asking for permission to use it. So I just kind of used Acorn posters originally, which by that I mean I went to get photos of the actual advertisement posters of the Acorn Whisk PC, which I thought was really good, which you can see there, and then I also, while I was at it, did like the base glossy plastic for the base of the frames, and then I kind of then did the Phoebe 2100 for the bigger frame, which is where I have like a welcome to point of view one. And you can see I just kind of, how it is in real life, because I haven't got time to resend it, I just kind of have it tilted and in the middle, so it just kind of looks as it is, which is, it doesn't take up the entire frame, just a portion of it. And then I just spent for the longest time struggling to get the background working, because I didn't want the black thing, because there's nothing behind the texture, so I wanted a kind of white thing in front, behind it, so the background image as it is like the real thing. And you see it took me a long while, but we got there eventually, and then I wanted something to simulate the glossy nature of the plastic in front of the images, so I just kind of did like a semi-translucent thing, and actually just done a cut there because I didn't really like the fact there was two acorns there, so I wanted to use my Outbreak poster. That, if you didn't know, I did a little movie poster thing for my SFM short Outbreak, which I did as my end of year project in 2018, and that poster was one of the requirements for that unit. And I couldn't find it for the longest time. I thought I had it in the Photoshop folder, but it actually was in the USB stick, and I didn't have that USB stick anymore because I literally lost it about a week before I did this artwork. So of course I didn't think I was going to need it, but as it is, I did need it, and I ended up spending quite a lot of time looking for a backup, and luckily I found one that was made for print, CYMK, because I also did like an RGB version. So I made the print ready version, I downloaded it because luckily the download link was still up, and that's how I got to use the Outbreak poster. What I've just done while I was explaining that is that I just added a bit of extra light to give it a bit of a boost because it was way too dark inside, and I had it coming out from the window side so it looked like the sun is kind of highlighting everything. And then I forgot to pack off the new textures, so you see some missing textures because for whatever reason the relative thing does not like my file structure for whatever reason, and you just couldn't find it. So I'll fix that in a moment, but I just imported my new chibi humanoid Sona. This is like my persona thing in my new chibi style that I'll be using moving forward, and that's probably what I illuminated to as a new art style. And you can see I'm just kind of messing around with the camera right now to kind of get the framing right. And then I end up using like a YouTube banner template to make sure I have the proportions correct. And it turns out the resolution is like something like 2560 by 354, something like that. And I was looking through the log to see if it would illuminate why I wasn't finding it, but I just kind of loaded the map anyway, backed it up, or pack everything and then copy it over, and you can see because I linked the actual map instead of appending it, just kind of updated automatically, so it was just like actually like it was like a source map sort of thing, because that's how that would work. Now we're just posing the the character. For this I kind of wanted like a hooray sort of thing, like huzzah, and I kind of like did the facial expressions first before I kind of moved on to posing. And I kind of knew what kind of framing I wanted, so I just kind of went on with that. And well, wow, couldn't we get the kind of get that fist look, like the punching up effect looking like. I didn't mind breaking the wig a little bit because if it worked in the camera, but I did find that the chair was clipping and you could see it was clipping, so I kind of did like a library override and manually moved the chair in the actual poster project instead of guessing by opening the map file itself, and that actually proved very effective. And after a while of trying to get the pose right, along with basically also with the hair having that dangle down because gravity, so it doesn't kind of float, which I kind of got it right in the end. Although I kind of did a backup and just did some further modification. I believe this new pose I was a lot happier with, more or less, but I believe I also worked a bit on the hair a bit more. So again, looks like it's dangling down from gravity, which I'm very happy how it looks. It looks a lot better than I thought. And now we get on to the interesting thing. I changed like the color space to filmic, because that's like one of the new color profiles was a lot better than the old ones. And I like the blue glow from the screen, which just ended up being off frame, which is a bit unfortunate. And then we spend time trying to get light groups to work. And you can see I just kind of opened a new tab and I have that on my other screen. And I was trying to figure out how to use light groups, and it turns out it was not light groups that I needed. It was something else. Light linking, I can see right now. It was not light group I needed, it was a light linking. So basically, it only affects the exact mesh that you kind of wanted. So you drag a mesh into light linking, and then only that specific thing. So in this case the hair is effective and nothing else. So like the chair won't be effective, the table, or like or the head. So I can have a lot more control over what I wanted, and you can just see I just mess with light groups for the longest time because it was not working like I wanted, because I thought light groups was like linking. And it wasn't until like, this isn't working, and as they talk about, you know, compositing layers, it's like, that's not what I wanted. That is not what I want to do at all. That I ended up trying to look for again, and you can see how I removed the light groups and then we on to light linking because I actually realized what I wanted to do, and just drag the mesh into the light, and you can see only that part is affected. So for the longest time in Blender, I just couldn't. I always had the problem of light affecting parts I didn't, and made things look weird. I have no idea how this will look when it's all animated. It's not, this artwork is not going to be animated, but when I animate like Blender stuff itself, when I do actual shorts, it's going to be interesting to see how light linking will work in kind of a stop motion style. But I mean, overall, like, make no mistake, I think it worked very well, light linking, and it has several of my one of many grievances I've had with Blender for the longest time. You can see I've gone for a more warmer color tone for where the sun is coming in, because I thought that would look good, and it does look good. It kind of gives a little bit of a contrast to the, I just hit the desk, but it gave a good contrast to the blue screen, but I still felt like it was too bright, like how the background was way too bright in contrast to the kind of character itself. Just kind of looked weird. So you can see I just kind of renamed the lights to my usual naming convention as if I was in Source Filmmaker, and now I've created a new area light, which is just gonna light the entire screen. But I also realized I didn't import the skybox, so I just kind of linked that up, and then I created a new area light because I didn't like my old one, and I had linked it specifically to the banner collection, which I found out you can group collections by itself. So that meant like the chibi character, my chibi Sana, was not affected by this area light whatsoever, and only like the map itself, which was again ended up being a lifesaver because it didn't mean that I had to mess around with that. And now we get on to rendering. So basically I'm setting it up to 2560 by 1440, rendering it out, and now we're into GIMP. In GIMP, I went with a black background, just the first and foremost, and then we just kind of imported the graphic template, which is not entirely correct. It was kind of weird, but so I ended up making like a group. I forget what it's called, but like a clipping mask group, and I found that and then made the images, both the ambient occlusion and the diffuse, which, as you know, I like to window those separately in artworks, and I kind of grouped them together and multiply over the Y, so it just kind of gave the clipping effect at the top and bottom. And then I did a curves thing for RGB to color grade. In the end, I didn't really like how I color graded it, so I will go back and change it later in this time lapse. But you can see I did the brightness, contrast, and because I've linked everything, I just kind of moved stuff around, scale it up to try and get the scaling right, because it was not exactly how I saw it in my mind's eye, and I didn't like it. I actually accidentally scaled both, and so I couldn't compare. And actually doing this, I don't know what I'm doing now. Oh yeah, I hadn't saved at this point. I went and saved because I've remembered I hadn't saved at this point, so all my work was kind of down the honor system. I added the text, which is we're using the Lemon Milk font, which a bit of Joy introduced me to, and I immediately was a fan of. So I did that, and then added the channel Federator logo. Originally that was going to be where Crystallised Entertainment was. I was going to do a custom thing, kind of like black overlay. It was going to look very good, but I just didn't end up doing that because I didn't think I had the energy or the effort, and it was a lot of work to go over Federator's logo. But you see, I'm not just manually reframing it in Blender, just so it's a lot more in frame, so because it was kind of clipping one side, as you can see here. I winded out the ambient occlusion and diffuse mask, but also while I was rendering, I took the other opportunity and kind of moved the Federated logo to be to the side of the channel name. And I didn't apparently skip this out, but you can see how much quicker the rendering is with the RTX 3060 with optics than it is with than it was with the 970 on the Hackintosh, where I waited 3 hours for it to render a very similar thing. But with the RTX 3060, it took like 5 minutes. It's amazing how much technology has progressed in the intervening years. And you can see I'm now doing the new RGB curves for color grading, because I didn't like the old one, so instead of using my preset, I just made a complete new one and went from there. I made the V2, I compared it, I really liked it. Then I also did a saturation thing to increase the saturation marginally. I cannot wait for when GIMP 3.0 comes out, and we have a lot more like a Photoshop non-destructive way of adding curves, saturation, that sort of thing, because that's one of the things I missed from Photoshop, and relied on so many different duplicates of that base diffuse layer so I could color grade it. But hopefully when GIMP 3.0 rolls around, whenever that does, I can just use a more non-destructive way. Now here we are, moving into just basically copying and importing my animation and some of my time-lapse thumbnails, which is basically all for the stuff from the phase 2, because I don't really have anything else right now, and I'm just scaling it. Well, not scaling it, I scaled it and then moved it so basically it's like a tile thing which we'll have in the background for like what TVs will see. And then we just duplicated it and then just kind of duplicated the entire groups. I have 2 groups, and then basically just linked them together so I moved, so it has a lot more of a like in the center sort of thing, except it's like, oh, it's like the left bottom is like perfectly aligned, but the top right isn't, so I just didn't do that in the end. I desaturated it, blurred it, and also turned down the opacity so it's a bit darker, and I'm very happy how it looks, honestly. And then from there I added text to which will be the channel, so not channel but my Tumblr link for my behind the scenes blog, and then I added a black border around it. which is go behind, and I've changed the opacity to have it on top, so it looks very neat, very modern. That does the way I've done. I've seen other YouTubers done that with their banners, and I felt inspired, so I did it myself, and I'm very happy how it looks. And then I believe I'm adding a drop shadow to something. I'm not entirely sure. Oh yeah, I'm adding the drop shadow to the actual border of the for the main art itself. You'll see on the web browser. And then we've moved on to my graphics tablet now, my Helion tablet, which I'm using to blur the edges, so the kind of blends into the not shallow, whatever the opposite of shallow is, depth of field I have going on with the artwork itself. And I kind of like it. Kind of blends in a lot more. Doesn't look kind of stuck. Doesn't stick out a lot more. And now we're kind of trying to add a bit more of a scratch mark. I want kind of like a scratched effect, so it kind of looks faded sort of thing. That's the thing from day one I kind of wanted from the text. So I just kind of ended up trying a few things. I ended up doing multiple scratch layers sort of thing. So it's like one layer of scratch, then a different part of scratch, and like say part of scratch a little bit more, and this kind of end up giving a bit more of a desirable look. And I also messed the individual opacity. Luckily, because the default opacity for the text itself was 100%. It's only the group is with the opacity lowered. It means I can give a lot more of a desired effect than I wanted. And then we just export it to export it as a PNG file ready for use. Now that's all said and done, here's a new banner for Crystallised Entertainment. I also like the fact that even I was trying to keep up with what I was doing, and basically the time-lapse ran away from me, as you probably could tell from me just giving very, very brief descriptions of things before moving on what I'm doing currently. It was very difficult keeping myself up with this one compared to my Chill Peep Zone anniversary artwork, which was a little bit easier to keep up on. In total, the artwork took me 3.5 hours, which partly was because most of the grunt work creating the scene was done in 2017 and 2021 respectively. Overall, I am very happy how clean, modern, and dare I say near professional aesthetic I somehow managed to achieve. By the time you're watching this, the banner should be live, along with the other changes I've done to give the channel a long overdue innovation. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye bye.